Okay, good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you?
Terrific, thank you.
Living the dream.
Absolutely. Okay, very good. Today we are talking about the article that appeared in the on the website for NPR on January 24th of this year, which is 5 takeaways from the New Hampshire primary. Now, as I'm sure you guys know, Donald Trump beat Nikki Haley by about 10 to 11 percentage points. So the question that I kind of want to start out with is this the end of the road for Nikki Haley, and does this mean that the Republican nomination for the presidency is now locked up for Trump?
Well, I kind of think it may actually be the end of the road, considering we're a month out from South Carolina, and there's still question on whether she's actually going to be able to take her own state. Looking at the demographics, South Carolina, its makeup isn't too terribly different from Iowa, and Iowa, was quite favorable for Donald Trump. And so if Nikki Haley loses her home state, then I don't think there's any turning back.
Yeah, she's done. She's going to lose her home state, I think. Tim Scott, he was a representative that she appointed. He's already come out and supported Trump. He was a former candidate. He had the chance to support her, and he just went the other direction. Lindsey Graham supports her. It's, like Jeff said it, or like Mr. Alexandre said, the makeup is very similar to Iowa, so it's way, way, way more leaning that direction than New Hampshire was, and I don't see any way she wins.
Just out of curiosity, do either of you think that she might drop out before the South Carolina primary? But the article talked a little bit about, does she want to continue being beaten up by Trump on Truth Social every day?
I think it depends on, and I know this sounds terrible, but I think it depends on if the Republican Party can get to her or not. If they can convince her that all she's going to do is take votes away from Trump, or hurt Trump in his race against Biden in the end, I think she will. I'm hoping she stays just completely for spite, if nothing else, because there has to be somebody to do the right thing at some point.
Well, and it's interesting because the article does indicate that the Republican Party right now is a party of one, and if Nikki Haley wants a future within the party and in politics, vice presidency, or even making a run in 2028, it seems pretty clear that she's going to have to kind of bow out, and that may not be enough. Bow out and then also climb on board
right.
to the Trump train.
I think the quote in the article says it all. Trump added, "I don't get too angry, I get even." So he's already come out and basically said she shouldn't be running, that she wasn't born in the United States, and I mean the gloves have come off for sure. I don't see any way they make her that he would ever make her the vice president. I think it's going to be somebody way more crazy, like Stefanik or Tucker Carlson.
Well, and one of the other things, going along the lines, I don't get too angry, I get even. There was another component of the article that addressed that this election is really about what does it mean to be an American, and what are those values here in the United States. And that statement, "I don't get angry, I get even," in my lifetime is not a value that is part of the democracy that I grew up in. And so that is a little, it's a lot concerning.
I would agree 100% with that, but I also don't think that helping to foster, incite, support insurrection and a storming of the Capitol is that either.
No.
And at the same time, when you have an individual saying that those people are hostages and not prisoners, even though they've been convicted in a court of law by their peers, I think we're way beyond American values.
We've already thrown out those values.
Yeah, that was gone a long time ago, unfortunately, I think.
One of the interesting parts of the article towards the end, it said, it was the fifth takeaway. It said, for a country that says it doesn't want a Biden-Trump rematch, it surely seems like it's get that pretty easily. Repeatedly, polls have said that people don't want to see these two running again.
Yep.
And yet, repeatedly, those presumably same people are going to the polls, and they are pulling the lever for either Donald Trump or Joe Biden. What do you think is going on here? I mean, why do people say one thing and then act in this totally different way?
I think part of it is on both sides, we have, whether it's, from a blue or red perspective, my main objective is to either get that individual out. My main objective is to prevent that individual from getting in. And I think for many people, their belief is those two individuals are the only ones that are going to attract enough people to meet that objective, right? I mean, Biden might be the only one that could defeat Trump. Trump might be the only one to get Biden out of office. And we're no longer looking at what are each of the candidates bringing to the table, what's their platform, et cetera, et cetera.
What's odd about that, though, is that earlier in the article, I think they cited a poll of likely voters in a head-to-head matchup between Haley and Biden, and Haley ran, at least according to the polls now, much better against Biden. I think she was up by, 6 to 8 percentage points, correct me if I'm wrong.
8%.
8 percentage points, whereas, Donald Trump and Joe Biden are within the margin of error with one another. So I think you're right about that, but it seems to go against the evidence that we have from the polling. Mr. Fishburn, what do you think?
People are scared. Republicans in particular are scared, and they're afraid to go against Trump because he gets even. You've seen what's happened. I mean, just look at what happened to the people that did go against him. Kinzinger, no longer in Congress. Liz Cheney, probably one of the staunchest conservatives there was, gets voted out because of him. He's made it really, really clear that if you don't side with him, that you're going to lose, and they're afraid. I mean, it's fear. It sounds terrible and it's a little embarrassing, but it's fear. They're afraid to say anything against him, even though she's polling better. It shows in a head-to-head meet, she's 6 points ahead of where Trump is against Biden, but they're afraid of that 30% or 33% or whatever it is of the party that is MAGA. And they're just not willing to come out and say anything. Chris Christie was willing to say something, and look what it got him. Cheney said something, look where she is. Kinzinger said something, look where he is. Mitt Romney now is coming out to say something, and same thing.
Well, and then when you just look at DeSantis, before he dropped, he made it clear that Donald Trump is not, fit to be in office, but yet he endorsed him once he dropped.
And every one of those candidates, except for Christie, said they would pardon him if they were elected.
It is unusual in recent American political history, to say the least. I wanted to comment.
Crazy.
Mr. Fishburne, you mentioned Liz Cheney, and I don't know how many people know who Liz Cheney is, but she comes from a storied political dynasty. Her dad is Dick Cheney, and whether you like Dick Cheney or not, Dick Cheney is probably, or at least was, one of the most revered living politicians in the history of the state of Wyoming. Wyoming was absolutely Cheney country.
Yep.
The idea that she would lose, somebody from the Cheney family would lose in a landslide in Wyoming, shows that something has happened in a very drastic way that has turned things essentially upside down. I'm reminded of General Cornwallis being defeated at Yorktown, and they said the world is turned upside down, and that's kind of where it looks like we're at right now. In the time that we have left, let's just go around the table real quick, and we'll start, Mr. Fishburne, with you. If you were going to put on your wizard hat and unveil your crystal ball, what do you think's going to happen come November?
Boy, if people do what they actually believe in, and when they go to the ballot box, if they actually are making a decision based on true ideology and beliefs, I think, democracy might have a chance to make it. But I'm not sure that's going to happen. I think it's going to depend on, the economy's been on fire last year. The stock market's the highest it's ever been. For all of us that have retirement plans, we were like, cha-ching, heck yeah. But at the same time, you go buy a loaf of bread or a gallon of gas, and you're like, what in the heck is wrong here? So how people feel versus how things are, it could go either way. But I could truly see a way that Trump actually gets reelected, and I never, ever, ever thought I would say that.
Yeah, not after January 6th.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't have that crystal ball, and I do see it as a legitimate possibility that even after all of the events that have transpired since January 6th, I think there's a real possibility. And if that does happen, then I fear what the future has in store for our republic.
I just to bring us to a conclusion, I share what both of you have said. Those feelings. I at this point I would say it's probably 50-50. It's a toss up. And that coin flip is kind of scary from my perspective. We are looking at a person that, as both of you have pointed out, has said, I get even. And what I worry about is, what does that mean in the context of the power of the office of the presidency? So, well, we will see. This will be an interesting year, and we are watching history in the making.
Yes,
we are indeed.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I am going to